Hey, I'm Lucas with Rise. Today I had the opportunity of interviewing Mark Bowden, CEO and founder of TruthPlane. Today we talked about body language, different communication styles, and presentation tips, all in regards to building trust and relationships with people. So there's a lot of great little nuggets throughout this interview that I know you will enjoy. So with that, let's dive right in. I guess, like I said, the first question that I had was just tell me a little bit more about TruthPlane and how you got started and kind of got into all of this.
Yeah, so the company is a training company, and we help people all over the world stand out, win trust, gain credibility every time they speak. So I'm out a lot delivering keynotes around how to use your body language for trust and credibility. And we also have online training at truthplane.com. I've written 3 on the 4th book, and what else do we do? Oh, training as well. So I'm out there delivering training pieces as well, which might be anything from half a day to a day with as many as maybe 20 or so people, and sometimes as small as 3 or 4 in a room together. So that's really what we're about, is how do you create trust and credibility every time you're speaking or presenting or networking? How do you use your body language to do that?
Okay. And how did you really get into that, though?
Yeah, so I started off in the area of performance and entertainment, actually, and I was really obsessed with human behavior, really obsessed with how do you make really great stories with moving pictures, and so I worked a lot in theatre and TV and film and used my non-verbal skills and information there. Then I transferred it across to business and politics and found that there was a lot of really simple stuff around how movement changes perceptions that people didn't know. And so there was a great market out there for helping people in business and politics get their message across.
That's so cool. I can't even imagine. It's kind of interesting how from like entertainment all the way to now the business world of it.
Yeah, so it wasn't a big leap for me, but for other people it feels like a big leap. But the skills that I had and that I understood,
Mm-hmm.
they fit in so incredibly well with the business of relationships in work. Really, that's what I'm working with is how do you build relationships with the behavior that you have around your communication.
That makes complete. So then from that point of view, what do you think is kind of like right off the bat one of the biggest mistakes that kind of people make when they're trying to build this trust relationship, but they just don't know and they don't even realize they're making the mistake?
So I think what people don't know, look, they know this. They know a lot of this stuff, okay?
Yeah.
Here's the thing is they don't know just how powerful it is. So my guess is if I say to you something like, well, there's closed body language and there's open body language,
Mm-hmm.
my guess is you kind of go, okay, yeah, I know that, I know that. And anybody listening to this is going to go, yeah, I know that. And so instantly it's easy to be quite dismissive around that and think I know that and I've got that stuff down. But what you don't know is just the huge effect that it has. So not only on other people's perception of you, but your perception of yourself and your own behavior. So if I'm going to do some closed body language with you right now, and I just want you to notice how it already starts to change not only your own perception of me, but also the way that I'm talking to you and the way that I'm speaking to you. It's changing my tonality. It's changing the pattern of my speech. It's changing my eye contact with you. So there's what we call a cascade effect with this. All I've done is cross my legs over, folded my arms, and actually more than anything else, I'm tucking my arms in tight to the side of my body.
Yeah.
And it's a big, I think you'll agree, it's a big, oh no, you're already starting to mirror it as well.
No, yeah.
And so, look, that's part of the cascade effect as well, is you're mirroring me. Now what I'm going to do is open up my body language to you, close the proximity a little bit. So even in this imaginary world that we're in now, I'm getting closer to you. And have you already noticed how you've livened up, I've livened up, the relationship is already better. So I think that's what I notice. There are many examples of this, by the way, in specific areas and signals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people know this stuff. They've read books on body language. They've seen videos. But what they haven't done is experience the biggest triggers and the effect that it has on others, on yourself, and then on your content. So you start to judge the content, what I'm telling you, based on the way my body is. So I think the extraordinary thing is the big cascade of behavior that happens.
No, that makes complete sense. And like you said, especially it's not just how the other person perceives, but how you end up changing based upon that.
Absolutely. You can change your psychological state by changing your body language, essentially.
So then what do you think is like one of the... So you just demonstrated right there the kind of closed
Sure.
body language versus the open body language.
Sure.
Is that it, or is something else one of the easier things to fix that people don't even know?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, if you just pay attention to open and closed body language, you could change the way that people relate to you significantly. So it isn't it, but wow, I mean, if you just do that, you can have a huge effect. Let me give you another one, and this is still around the area of open body language, and this is using open palm gestures. So again, I'm just going to try and show you this a little bit bit better by moving back here. But notice how you feel about me if I'm using these open palm gestures, especially at navel height here. Yeah, open palm gestures here. And look what happens if I just take those gestures away from you. Yeah, so I'm gonna still keep my body fairly big and wide, but now you're not getting to see my hands at that navel height.
No, you automatically feel disinterested.
Right, okay, so you've already made a judgment about me that I'm disinterested in this relationship, this conversation. Let's see if I can change that judgment for you. I'm just going to do open palm gestures at navel height again. Does it feel like a different relationship to you now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so how simple is that?
Yeah.
Open palm gestures is a signal of no tools, no weapons. This is a vulnerable area of the body. And so I'm showing you that, you know, I'm not a predator. I'm not a threat. There aren't any predators or threats in the room. There's no predator and threat to our relationship. And then you start to think that about my content as well.
Okay.
So if I were trying to relate with you, network with you, try and pitch you my product and service, you'd be more open to it here.
Yeah.
You'd be more closed to it here. Same product, same service. You would get closed to it more here. You'd be more open to it if I communicated it like this.
Okay. So, well, then let me ask you, what about that dynamic in relation to, you know, different people's communication styles? So, for instance, I mean, just as an example, like I know there's a buddy of mine, very engineering based, very analytical. He just wants the facts. Does it matter how I'm presenting those facts as opposed to, you know, do you see what I'm going for?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure he's even almost told you, hey, you know, I just want to analyze this, so just give me the facts.
Yep.
Secret between you and me, don't tell him this. He's lying. Okay? He has a theory about himself, which comes, I would suggest, from his training.
Yeah.
And you know, because he's an engineer. He's got probably a steel ring on his finger to show other engineers and himself, I'm an engineer. I only look at the analytics, at the facts. Yeah. And he's been to school for maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 years to learn that process. And so he's gonna represent himself to you as being that type of person. Yet, I would say when it comes down to it, he's going to be exactly the same as you and I, and he wants to get easy theories about the quality of the information, and then he'll do what we call reverse engineering, which is he'll make a judgment, he'll then cherry pick the data, and then he'll reverse engineer as to why the data that he picked is the accurate data. So I could still give him a theory about me as being trustworthy and credible. His brain would cherry pick the data, and then he'd do some analytics around only the data that he's chosen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
There are very few people on the planet who will do anything more than that. There are some people on a spectrum of some neural differences whereby they are truly only getting the data.
Yeah.
They're truly only doing that, or they are getting actually an overwhelm of emotion, and so they're taking it away completely, and that's why they're only getting the data. They're few and far between. You'll find them pretty tricky to work with. Mm-hmm. They have to be supported by a community.
Yeah.
I would probably think he's not one of them. But anyway, don't tell him that. Don't spoil his fantasy.
A little secret, yeah, of course. That's funny. Okay, so then that's something interesting. Well, I guess I'm thinking that, like, in relation to that, the analytics and kind of building that relationship. So I'm still going to provide that data that he wants, but I'm still going to but I'm presenting it very much in the way I would still want to communicate with him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. You're going to package it right.
Okay.
Essentially.
Yeah.
When you package it right, what's in the package is going to look and feel even better to him.
Okay.
The important thing is, as well, is other people are maybe watching in on your conversation. Mm-hmm. You know, we never know quite who's seeing the conversation going on. And if you're being very analytical with him, other onlookers who might want to work with you and network with you, they could look and go, "Oh, that's a really tedious conversation going on over there. I won't talk to those guys." Whereas if it is a little more open, a little more animated, it helps set up what we call the brand of you. Yeah, as being an engaging human being. Okay. Yeah, so there's no downside to it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, okay, now a little bit more on your book about the primitive brain.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, what are some of the primitive brain activities that might actually break down trust and relationships that we don't even realize? Maybe not even so much related to the body language part, but actions that we take or something like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so a good example would be, and this is kind of related to body language to an extent or certain behavior, is when we get under stress and pressure, mm-hmm. we start to leak some of the signals of that, and those signals to the primitive brain are the same as are so similar to threat signals, predator signals, that we get put in that predator category.
Oh.
Because so often some of the signals that happen under stress and fear and pressure, they don't quite follow through. The signals don't quite make sense. They can get very confusing when we're trying to read them, and the primitive brain does not like confusion. It's not in it for a crossword puzzle.
Yeah.
It doesn't like that kind of competition. So it just defaults to negatives.
Interesting.
So, for example, if I give you some examples of this, if I just do a whole bunch of signals that don't quite make sense to you, yeah, and then which I might do if I was under stress and pressure about this interview, yeah.
Yeah, I see it already.
Notice how it's now really difficult for you to even get into my conversation. Mm-hmm. Here's another one for you. When insufficient data, the primitive brain always defaults to a negative. So if it's not getting enough data, it's not an optimist, it's a pessimist. Okay. Now, there are other parts of your brain which can be optimistic, but the brainstem isn't one of them. Okay? So if I simply just cover my mouth here so you can't see my lips move so much, mm-hmm. but I'll give you plenty of eye contact. Yeah. Do you feel optimistic about our relationship and the content that I'm giving you, or do you now feel more pessimistic about it?
Well, I can definitely say I'm not more optimistic. I'm definitely a little like, okay, maybe this is just the way this guy talks, you know?
Okay, so you're a little more skeptical. Now let me give you some numbers to go with this. Just to let you know, last year my company made $5 million in profit, which is a fantastic amount. I'm really pleased about that.
Yeah, you can just throw all that credibility out the water.
Absolutely. Now let me do this for you. Yeah? Let Let me just go to here. Yeah. Sorry. Let's go like that. Last year, my company made $5 million in profit, which is a fantastic amount. I'm really pleased about that.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
A huge world of difference.
Yeah. And so absolutely the same data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But in that last one, you saw more of my body. You saw open palm gestures at navel height. In this one, you're getting insufficient data. And so you impose that insufficient data, this idea of default to a negative, onto all of my content. And your engineering buddy would do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I would be giving him the data.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't buy it.
No,
so I guarantee, try it with him.
That makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. So then, so I've seen that situations happen before, where I notice a friend of mine or a colleague who is under pressure, who is stressed, and they do they hit these, these little tics that they have, and it's huge visual cues. Absolutely. I mean, obviously he's stressed. And let's put myself in his shoes. How would I, if I know that I'm stressed, I know I got, million and one things going on, how do you kind of tell the brain, stop that for a minute and let me try to, ignore everything else and be right here?
Yeah, great question. You can't stop the brain doing that.
Darn.
without some drugs which will kill you.
I was gonna say I could take a couple of drugs, couldn't I?
But it's okay because you can countermeasure it.
Okay.
You can physically give it an environment which will soften or countermeasure that default to negative that's going on there. So number one is, can you start to learn the situations, the environments that you go into that give you more stress? So if I wake up in the morning and I go, hey, I've got a meeting with so-and-so, I always get a little bit stressed about that. Oh, I bet good money I'll be stressed in that meeting today. You've already worked out some of your behavior. You're now using your neocortex to think about what your brainstem will do. That's really smart thinking. You're doing self-assessment. You're doing perceptual positioning about yourself in the future. There's nothing else on the planet that can do that. There's nothing else that can think about how it's going to perform in the future. That's an amazing capacity. Okay, so now you know that about yourself. You could decide your body language before you go in there. Yeah, you could say, I know what I'll end up doing. I'll end up closing in when I'm talking. I'll end up minimizing myself. I won't show my hands so much. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to maximize my body more. I'm going to open up. I'm going to use open palm gestures in what I call the truth plane, that belly area. It's such an important, such an important, now you get it. So it's such an important gesture plane that I named my company after it. Okay, so I'll do open palm gestures in the truth plane there. And because of that, I'll countermeasure. I can't wipe out that anxiety completely. Of course. But I might do it enough that at some points I'll just forget that I'm anxious. And it might disappear. It might, Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense, because I do know that there's a lot of, people think that the brain and the body are kind of separated. And so if you can kind of decide what the body's going to do ahead of time, it can have that reverse effect onto the brain itself. So that's kind of...
It's great that you've highlighted that there is a lot of thought about brain and body being separated. And I think we have that because it's just easier to do biology if we separate brain and body. It's easier to go, oh yeah, you got your brain up there and it's not down there. And but the reality is that the brain goes all the way to the brainstem and down the spine, and there's bundles of neurons, big bundles of neurons all the way down the spine, which are handling a lot of what the muscles are doing and not even using the brain. Actually, the muscles talk to each other with sets of neurons, so even muscles know where other muscles are without using the brain. If we didn't have that system, we'd just fall over. We'd never be able to walk. We'd never be able to walk downstairs. That would be because a lot of the movement that we're doing is reliant on the type of joints that we've developed, knowing what gravity does, and muscles being able to talk to each other very, 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 very quickly.
Yeah.
If you look at modern cybernetics, you'll see that the cybernetics developers have realized that they stopped putting the brain, at the top of a robot, because those things couldn't walk. The message couldn't get to the brain and back quick enough, the computer and back quick enough. These things would just fall over. What they started to do is put smaller computers all over the thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes just simple decision-making systems that would go from pneumatic to pneumatic.
Yeah.
Once they did that, you start to get those crazy cybernetic robots that you see now that seem to move just like animals.
Yeah.
Because they're using the same system of not having one central brain, but almost a brain across the whole of the body. And essentially that's what we've got. We've kind of got a brain across the whole of the body, though of course most of it is up here. Some of it's in our stomach, by the way.
I was going to say, I know where my brain is, but... Okay, no, that's interesting, and it's a little factoids like that most people don't realize. I didn't even realize that to the extent that you'd mentioned. No, that's really helpful, especially when you're going into those types of situations. To know it's like, what, it's not all up here. I can kind of trust the rest of my body. You know what I mean? Right. To come into that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's interesting because it can often feel like it's all up here. And then, but our body starts doing weird stuff, and we start to try and control our body by controlling our feelings. Yeah. Whereas really, we should just try and control our body more. Just get the body to do simple stuff, which is more like we'd see in the behaviors or the feelings that we want to have. So if I'm feeling nervous, I know my body will minimize. So if I tell my body to maximize, it starts to inform you that I'm less nervous, but it starts to inform me and countermeasure my nervousness as well.
Okay. All right, so last couple of questions here. Another thing isn't that I had was not just the body language, but the way that you're actually speaking. So, for instance, I know like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He has a very dynamic way that he talks. Highs, lows, slows down, speeds up. Has a bunch of emphasis and then no emphasis at all. And so, I mean, that is just it's almost like a storytelling system. I guess, how much does that play into maybe the body language or just developing trust and that relationship in general?
So in that specific example, I think what he's trying to do, and doing it very well, is to be entertaining. And that's a great thing.
Okay.
And, we could think about his speech patterns almost being a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because he wants to excite people. He wants to take them for his story on a great ride that has suspense and will pay off and create, shock and laughter and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So he's got to have these tonalities that keep going up and take you to a peak and keep you rising and then drop you suddenly and keep you rolling along and rolling along and rolling along and rolling along and then turn a corner quick. And I think the interesting thing is to go back and look at that and listen to that tonality and see what his body is doing at the same time. Because you might see that he's actually moving with that as well, and he's using the movement to help produce the vocality. It's very different. Yeah, it's very difficult to get the voice to do, acrobatics if the body isn't doing it as well. And you'll see. Look at some film of, say, a great animation voices in the studio. Yeah. You'll notice they're standing up, they're moving, they're acting it out. Oh. Because that's the way they get the voice to work.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting thing to kind of I guess if you wanted to explore and look at that a little more, you could just go look at like the animation. I mean, even you just now when you were talking about the roller coaster, you picked yourself up and dropped yourself down
Yeah.
and kind of had the motion. Okay, so it's you're right. It is almost impossible to try to do the vocal movements if you're not doing the physical movements as well.
Let's just put it like this: it's so much easier to produce the voice if you're doing the movement.
Okay.
If you don't do the movement with it, the voice gets very, very strained because there's something wrong between what's happening in the muscles here and what's trying to happen in the muscles here. So if I just do some closed body language here, and I try to get my voice to go up in the air high like I was doing it before, and then down here. It's terrible. It doesn't, and also you don't
weird.
see. Yeah, it's just and it hurts, and you don't see it as well. It's much more interesting to see me do it.
Yes.
As well, and I know what I might be doing here is a little extreme potentially for most people's conversations, but just think about conversations that you are trying to have an impact with, and are you closing in your body, or are you opening it up? Are you allowing it to be more descriptive, even just moving in your hands, explaining stuff with your hands? It's not distracting. Actually, the brain really likes to see movement with the words.
No, that makes complete sense. And I noticed that I tried to do it at least in trying to kind of keep things engaging and match what I'm trying to say with how I feel in that motion. Okay,
Perfect.
So what if last question actually, if somebody kind of wanted to learn more, where would you kind of point them in the right direction about this?
Yeah, so obviously I'm going to point them to my website, which is
perfect.
www.truthplane.com, TRUTHPLANE, truthplane.com. Get yourself over to there because you'll see lots of video of me. It'll direct you to the online training as well if you want to watch, if you want to train around this in terms of how to use your body language to stand out, win trust, gain credibility when you're speaking. And there's lots of ways to get in contact with me there. There's the books. You'll find my books on Amazon, along with everybody else's. So grab some books, grab some video training. Yeah, truthplane.com.
Yeah, no, your TED Talk I loved. It was phenomenal. I mean, especially with the transition from the when you were just going to let me show you if I was angry and coming on stage. It was so smooth. It was almost imperceptible. And then at the end, you're like, "Oh, I didn't even realize it. He's horrible."
Yeah, I'm glad you like that. I've got some really great feedback on that talk, and again, it's a case of people thinking, "Well, I knew body language was important and it was effective. I just didn't know it was that important and that effective." So yeah, take a look at that. You'll just go to YouTube, put in Mark Bowden. And up I'll come, or put in Truth Plane. Up I'll come. Take a look at the TED Talk.
Awesome. Now, are there any other, are there any other resources that you've learned from really, and that you'd suggest sharing with other people that might be different aspects of the thing that high quality?
Yeah, I mean, you can. Let me just reach down. I'm going to disappear a minute while I reach down to my pile of books.
No worries, go
down
for it.
Here. But the book I started with, this might come out backwards, but the book I started with is Man Watching here by Desmond Morris.
Okay.
This came out when I was about 11 years old, and I think I read it about the age of 11. And this is a great point to start. It's a great classic in terms of human behavior, relationships, and the fundamentals of behavior and body language. So that's a great book to pick up. If you're really interested in exploring this area, I would say start at pretty much at the beginning.
Okay.
And you can't go far wrong with Desmond Morris and Man Watching. I think it's still called Man Watching, but if you look up the author Desmond Morris, you'll be able to get hold of that book.
Okay. No, that's phenomenal. I'll have to take a look at that and more of your books as well. Well, yeah. I don't have any other questions for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or impart wisdom or knowledge on anything?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, if people are interested in this and interested in how it makes relationships, then just play back some of this interview, see the stuff that I've been doing, and just do it. Just try it out.
Yeah.
Even if you do that open body language piece, you'll see some relationships that are maybe a little more difficult, fundamentally changing for you. So get out there and try it out.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, I really appreciate your time. I mean, thanks for joining me. Thanks for being a part of this.
Pleasure.
I really do. Yeah.
My pleasure. Anytime. Really great interview, and always happy to talk to you.
I hope you enjoyed that. Once again, Mark Bowden's website is truthplane.com. You can find more about his trainings and books there. If you're curious about Rise, Rise is a personal and professional relationship manager, helping you manage your networks and unlock new opportunities through those relationships. You can find out more at riseapp.co. Once again, thanks for watching.